With the season of friendship and community coming up, togetherness being ever so important, I was thinking that as you may be visiting your loved ones and celebrating over a tasty holiday meal, maybe you might have this question too. But when you see a sheep or even caretaking as a farmhand, do they miss you? Or are you just a hay or bucket bringer? Or is there something more going on? And how do you tell? Hello shepherds, welcome back. And if you're new here, hello. This is where we talk all things sheepy. My name is Megan, and today we're talking bonds, but specifically the human-sheep bond. So first off, I need to put a disclaimer. I know first off, I'm super guilty of this, but it's important not to project or attribute human behaviors or feelings onto sheep. So in an effort for being objective, I'm going to try to stay away from doing that for this video. But on a more serious note, it's because it can be very harmful for the livestock or dangerous even to mistake the signs of aggression for signs of affection, such as in the cases with smiling chimpanzees, in which smiling can be a sign of aggression rather than docility. Or especially in cases where some folks may not understand the importance of sheep needing companions, because they, as the caretakers, feel really happy, so why wouldn't the sheep? It's understandable, but that interspecies misunderstanding can cause a lot of harm to the sheep through stress. Or another example is in how they handle a ram safely and misinterpreting negative behavior signals as positive, which may accidentally cause problems as the ram matures, especially in cases with some bottle-fed rams or some pet rams. So I think it's pretty clear that as shepherds, with interacting with our sheep so often, that when our sheep or goats call out to us, or maybe crowd the gate, jockeying to see who gets to welcome us first, or maybe when they recognize the sounds of our exact car pulling up, or whatever distinct sound of us arriving as signs that there's a special bond with humans, or perhaps even their favorite human, maybe? After all, sheep played a part of human history since maybe 11,000 to 9,000 BCE. But what about in the context of missing us? Or missing you, especially when we're off traveling for the holidays, or on a smaller time scale for those of us who go to school or to work or to another home or back to our own home and such. Before we get started, please get that like button, mash and subscribe, and tap that little bell icon to be notified every time there's an upload. Also, all my sources will be cited in the description, and for ease of research, I did open this up to include goats. There are some nuances which I'll point out if it's a species-specific ability, and if you have any fun sources too, don't hesitate to comment and include them too. It can be a bit much to comb through all the papers, but I hope to find the best glimmers and fun aspects to share with you. So how does sheep memory work? In humans, memory often works through a specific personal experiences of what happens, where, or when something happened. Do sheep have the ability to sift through their personal experiences to remember what, when, or where something happens? Or are they able to think about future episodes or events? There isn't enough tests yet to say, but there are several studies that do give us clues into the minds of our sheep. First off, can sheep remember your face? A really popular study, which you may have heard of, by Keith Kendrick and several other colleagues, at the Babaram, I'm not sure how to say it, Institute in Cambridge, England, found that sheep specifically excel in facial recognition, not just of their flock mates, but in photos and even profiles of their flock mates. When trained with treats, they determined, and I quote, they determined that the sheep could recognize the individuals associated with the reward, even in profile, for upwards to 2 years. By measuring the activity in the areas of the sheep's brain that's associated with visual recognition. And they're able to correlate this recognition with clear behavioral signs that they recognize both absent individuals by vocalizing in response to their face pictures in the same way as they did to the faces of other members of their current social circle. So what this means is that the sheep would baa to the photo as it would to a flock mate that would see in a distance. So when you hear sheep bleat or baa, it may just have that vocal recognition. They did find though that over the course of time the memory does fade, and I haven't found any information about specific lamb or sheep's ages affecting this, but more on that later. They can even learn human faces from photos. So here's the fun thing that the researchers learned. Because the sheep are such social creatures and they developed a specific need to recognize a lot of flock mates in a wide array of angles, profiles, they even were able to train sheep to recognize celebrity faces from photos on a computer screen. And what this means is that even when looking at a 2D photo of someone that they've never met, However, the sheep can still learn that this is a face of a person. And pushing this further, the researchers found that the sheep were able to successfully identify the picture of their shepherd or handler or caretaker without any training by picture alone. I think that's pretty amazing. Imagine the scientists' surprise when they showed just the photo of their handler and the sheep responded with a positive identification. Okay, so now we've established that sheep can recognize you even from a photo of you is enough for upwards to 2 years. I'm sure there's some super memory sheep in there and other ones just aren't. But what about feelings? Feelings are so complex that even people struggle with them. So how can we measure or figure out what's going on with sheep? First off, in most studies I've read, they use several points of input to try to figure out what is going on, from their heart rate to surface body temperature and other signals that I'm sure you've noticed too, such as tail wagging, vocalizations of bleating or baaing, as they say, moving towards you or looking for closeness when they see you, as well as specific ear positions and noticing how their eyes ever so slightly close or leaning into you or your hand as you handle them. These are all clues to their internal state. And then through performing specific tasks such as brushing the sheep or giving them treats and then recording their findings. And then they're able to find out on the basis of 2 main scales called balance and arousal to figure out what's going on with our sheep and goats. So what this means is that balance is how positive to negative a thing is, or a sort of pleasant to unpleasant scale. And how low or high the intensity of the internal state is what their arousal or agitation level is. Feeding and play all have positive balances, as well as petting, gentle handling, grooming, brushing, and more. They all show positive emotions. The same with treats. And fun treats are a positive balance, but if you snuck some wood pellets in the place of the treats, it gave an increase in the heart rate. So a negative balance. Have you ever given treats to sheep but run out too soon? And then maybe heard a baa that sounded a little bit like a grumble? Well, I have, and now I know her heart rate probably also increased a bit in that moment too. But if you're thinking maybe it's just the food, sheep have even been found to have a preferred handler, though these were technically serious studies on the way the brain works and how to better understand humans and how we process information. For me, I'm taking away as more of a fun insight as a shepherd that helps better our understanding of how to make sure that we have the best experiences for all species involved. But on a more serious note, as shepherds, sheep that have a gentle human contact are easier to load, they have less stress during transport, as well as during vet visits or in treatment of injuries. And they also like to chill out more near their favorite person as the shepherd's working about. So there are some practical points to these studies for shepherds large and small as well. So now that we know the positive signs that they're fond of us, what are signs of stress from separation? But what about with missing you? What do we need to look out for that there's some signs that there's some stress going on from separation? Individually, the most obvious signs of separation stress specifically would be repeatedly calling out. Usually though, this is to other sheep. There's panting or a sudden increase in pacing, running along a fence line or their pen, trying and looking to rejoin their flock or trying to get out instead of eating and drinking or relaxing or chewing their cud. They're up on their feet, moving about. We can't see it, but their body is being flooded by stress hormones. To the sheep, this is a really extreme situation, a matter of life and death. Ideally, sheep have the appropriate flock mates whom they can practice healthy sheep behavior. And so this type of stress doesn't occur as much when a human leaves a flock. And it's more of an extreme situation, or it can also be sometimes a part of management process, such as when we have to quarantine and newly introduced sheep, or even during lambing, where we often separate them off, although sometimes they often self-separate, and they're still in sight of the rest of the flock, which does help. So sheep are very, very sensitive to separation stress, but mostly separation from other sheep and not so much humans. So how do you make your sheep more comfortable and less lonely while you're gone? The main thing to keep your sheep more comfortable is adding more sheep, within reason. With small lots or small holding, it can be harder to keep a larger flock. And this is where minis kind of fill that niche really well. I know I'm going to fluff some feathers, but sheep really need something other than a puppy or a livestock guardian as a playmate. And sheep are very social animals. I know most of you guys are really good with your sheep sheep. So this is more for just in case, because I do run into it every so often. Next up, having an enriching environment where they have access to fresh water, clean food, shelter, whether that's trees or a building. Every bit helps in relieving the stress of sheep. This is all breed and region specific though. And even so, some sheep are born babies regardless of breed heritage, and other ones really prefer to be out and about, irregardless of weather. So there is some nuance to the individual sheep as well here, which can make it difficult, but it'll be okay. Another practical way to make your sheep more comfortable is by installing a brush station. In smaller flocks, we can brush each sheep individually, but in larger flocks, it can be really impractical to do this. But having a brushing station can keep your sheep maybe not the exact same feeling as if you're brushing them, but it does a really good job at satisfying that itch, releasing all that stress for the sheep, and it still gives them that physical benefit. And in my flock, I have specific trees, logs, or branches that routinely they go for a specific scratchy spot, such as their back or maybe their pole. Rams in particular can be really tough on saplings, so just make sure that you have a very secure and safe scratching station. Sticking to a routine. I've noticed that sheep are very routine oriented. Every year when I have to change the clocks, it takes a good while for the sheep to also adjust to the time change, and I find they tend to bellow towards the house on the clock at the same time, and then as they approach, they like to line up accordingly along the fence line for their respective scritchies. It's all kind of goofy, really, so just the consistency and positive interactions really help with sheep, and knowing what to expect in terms of times and just consistent positive actions really help with the sheep's stress level. Getting a sitter for when you're out. I know this is really hard, but finding a sitter that's a little familiar to sheep helps, or other livestock. There's a lot of overlap when it comes to farm animals, and I know a lot of folks that use barn camps too that really help ease the stress when they're out and about. It looks super fun to use during lambing too. I don't have it, so I've just watched them live vicariously through other people with it. Seems so much more convenient, instead of just slogging off to check at all hours of the day and night. So that's another option. I know people who have a little bit of anxiety, and this really helps them. I kind of find sheep to be pretty resilient in unexpected ways, and then sometimes they also throw some prizes out there in outrageous ways too. So it's hard to generalize because there's always that one sheep and that one exception. So given now with what we know about sheep memory, does your sheep miss you? Here's what I think. We know that sheep in general have an excellent ability to not only remember other sheep, but human faces too. They have a good spatial memory, and they have buddies in their flocks too. Also, if you spend a lot of time with your sheep, and if you've been steadily consistent and have a gentle or positive interactions with them, as a person who is a main source of positive interactions, then yeah, when you're gone, it's safe to say that it's going to cause a very real and measurable change in your sheep, in their behavior, in their heart rate, their stress levels. Maybe that's a sign that they're remembering you and recognize that you missed a routine interaction. Does that mean it's a miss as in a missing feeling? I like to think it's a special interaction. And ultimately, sheep are resilient, especially with flock mates. But yeah, what do you think? And also, I've had family members who felt that their pet, when they would leave the house, would mourn their absence, even for moments as brief as going out to go to the grocery store. And it did cause a sort of mental health issue. I've also worked with rescues and hoarding situations, and I've met folks who've insisted on keeping a flock animal or herd animal by itself. So I do feel it's important to walk this delicately, since there's a lot that can go on. So if you find your sheep showing signs of too much stress from your absence, it's important to provide them first with friends, a clean and safe and enriching environment, and also don't forget to check with a vet to make sure that everything's okay with your sheep. And if you find yourself stressing out a little or a lot, so much so that it impedes life a little, I hope to reassure you that it's okay to travel and visit loved ones. Your sheep may notice you missing, but hopefully with the information we have here, you'll feel more confident in going out and about. I hope you enjoyed the video and have a good start to your weekend or weekday. Drop the snack emoji you're most looking forward to this holiday season below. And if you made it this far, an extra special thank you. I appreciate you. Until next time, ta-tas!